Well, each week a group of insiders joins me to offer perspective on some of the week's top stories. This week sounding off on the Andrew Luck retirement, not surprisingly. IndyGo's Red Line launches in the first year for ILEARN, and the scores are in. We'll have a lot more to talk about as well. C. Garcia Associates owner and president Charlie Garcia joins us on the Insiders this week. Also, pleased to be joined by Bose Public Affairs Group Principal Roger Harvey and Women's Fund of Central Indiana Executive Director Jennifer Pope Baker. And welcome one and all to the Insiders.
Thanks, Gary.
Good to be here.
Another week. Well, you know, we've had a lot of this coverage, fair to say, on Andrew Luck. Want to get all of your opinions, but Roger, you lead it off. Is there a way to encapsulate? There was so much to talk about. Obviously, it was a surprise. It was a shock.
Sure.
The boos at Lucas Oil Stadium, some of the national reaction, a lot of praise for Luck, but some were critical of the timing. Your takeaway?
Right. Well, I think overall you've got two parallel storylines here. Obviously, the individual Andrew Luck, who has been grasping with illnesses and injuries over an extended period of time, and it was very emotional for him. And he has to make the decision that's right for him, and that's the reason why you're seeing the support from other players. They know what it's like to play in the NFL. The other part of it is, I think, that's important to realize is that in the first few years that he was on the Colts team, he had virtually no protection whatsoever. And if you look online at the number of hits he took where announcers said, I can't even believe he got up from that.
Right.
So, I understand we're in an instant gratification society and no one remembers what happened 5 years ago or 7 years ago. But guess what? Andrew Luck remembers it, and certainly his body remembers it. And so I think you're seeing the culmination of years of his football life that evaporated in a shorter period of time because of what happened to him in terms of injuries.
No question about it. Jennifer, as you look at it, he's a great player on the field, but off the field, as well. It wasn't for a long career, but he made an impact in the community.
He had a huge impact on our community in the way that he contributed to our library and to Riley Hospital and others, and he comported himself with so much integrity on and off the field that for any of our hometown fans to question him and his decision, I think is unfair for people to do that.
Charlie, do you think this, I've heard people talking, is this a trend where you're going to see players accomplish, really good players, maybe 5-6 years into their careers, decide, you know what, I've made this money, I don't want to put my health, my livelihood at risk?
Yeah, we're seeing that across the board, not just football, but other high impact sports, where they're these are highly educated for the most part, with Stanford, UCLA. I mean, this is not out of the sandlots that like it used to be when football first started. So I think the decisions are made quickly. And I would also add to that, the quality, the intensity of the sport has increased. When you have 300-pound men running 4.5, 40, yard, I mean, that's fast and hard.
You make the point, I've heard others make it as well, that for many players, football is their identity. And certainly it was part of Andrew Luck's identity, but here's a guy who has other interests, and very clearly, and maybe that factored into his decision is, I love football, but I love other things in life too.
I would be interested to see if he starts working out that architecture degree that he has.
Yeah, we had Bill Brown from Ratio on earlier. Maybe Bill Brown will take him
up. Sure.
Another big story as we look to the week ahead is mass transit in Indianapolis. Been talked about for a long, long time. The IndyGo Red Line is launching in the week ahead. That first phase of a larger vision for mass transit in Indianapolis. Jennifer, I'll start with you. I know you're a big proponent of mass transit. Been a lot of mixed signals coming out there, a lot of supporters out there, tech community and others, as this is the construction has happened. A lot of criticism too about and wondering how is this going to work with traffic, with acceptance and all those types of things. How do you?
Well, first of all, I'm a huge fan. I grew up with mass transit, and I think it's important. I think that people are always scared. How's this going to impact me personally? How's it going to impact my commute? Is it going to impact my business or whatever it is? I think once we get used to it, people will really like it, and I think it is a great opportunity for people who are underemployed to be able to get on a bus and not have to worry about taking care of a car, taking care of parking, that they can get on a bus and go to work. Yeah,
the workforce thing is a big component. Charlotte, you were involved in the early stages of mass transit.
2008, brought it to the table with the community, started working on it. We traveled, I was chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, Indy Chamber of Commerce, and we went to different cities throughout the country. We went from Denver to San Antonio to Charlotte, even looked at Atlanta, and how they actually grew and developed the whole process and the initiative. And we have taken a very conservative approach towards it. I mean, from the standpoint of taxation, we're trying to utilize the revenues that we have currently, adding some federal grants. But I think to really increase and progress, like Jennifer was saying, you go to other communities, whether it's Chicago or I'm from San Francisco originally, and we're okay with the taxation as long as there's a quality product.
Right.
And so I think we've taken, hopefully it is a first step, the red line and the purple line, and we can build some momentum to really develop as a first.
Jennifer talked about growing up with mass transit as a culture piece, you know, because that's certainly not the case around here. Is that going to be maybe a factor here that people aren't used to it?
Absolutely. I think people aren't used to it, and they see the inconvenience because we're such a car-centric community. But I think that definitely the millennials are more into it, but we have to think about the people who cannot afford to have a car and how much it makes a difference.
And I think the key to it, though, is the connectivity, which we're not going to see for a while in terms of the other lines.
Exactly.
Charlie's hit the nail on the head there, because you've got this one line, which is great, and that's a start, but I think part of the challenge is going to be, okay, if I'm not going north or south, right? What about my east-west options, whether it's to the airport or heading out to the
big employment, how about at the airport, right?
Exactly. So the quicker we get to step 2 and step 3, I think the better we'll be. You know, the good thing is, I think, for the folks that live around the red line, is just having the construction finally come to an end, because that's been a lot of the frustration, people cutting through neighborhoods and so forth. So
we saw, Gary, economic development was a big play on transit.
Right.
Every time there was a stop, like in Denver, there was economic development. So whether it was small restaurants, coffee shops, whatever it was, so it was very complex initiative that they moved and progressed through in a short period of time.
Will be interesting to watch develop. Certainly a workforce, a talent, a big part of mass transit. The governor leading an economic development, economic delegation to Asia, a group of mayors and other officials. Roger, these things are very commonplace now. It didn't used to be years ago, but now this is very much an intentional strategy by the state to go out and really prospect for business around the globe.
Well, it's intentional because it works, and it's been very successful for a number of years. I mean, the reality is, you know, as you travel internationally, there is tremendous value from a culture and a business perspective of having face-to-face interaction. Technology's great, and video conferencing and so forth, but investing the time, energy, and effort to travel to a Japan and meet with companies pays off. You look at here in Indiana, we have over 300 companies with Japanese ties, and that's the reason why you see the Westfield mayor with Toyota Bastion Solutions recently building an $8 million facility in Westfield. They're going on this trip, and that will mean a lot to grow that type of business from an international perspective. And
we're seeing too, Japan, obviously a big one, but Germany, Korea, Saab, Switzerland, we're seeing really a more of a diverse portfolio, if you will, of companies coming to Indiana.
And we're lucky to have the be able to develop a workforce, and we need to do more of that to meet those companies' demands in our
Jennifer, any comment on ILEARN, the replacement, if you will, for iStep? The numbers came out. We're not up to snuff, shall we say. The governor made some concessions there to get this thing rolling. Good process, do you think?
I'm concerned that it's just going to lead to more teaching to the test and less opportunity for teachers to really teach the things our kids need to know in order to be competitive in our workforce.
Yeah. Okay, Charlie.
I think the culture, we need to change the culture. I think that I founded a couple of charter schools here in Indianapolis. I've been involved with IPS for years, a common goal with the chamber. It's really changing the culture of how we teach, and it's not necessarily testing. So how we direct that education.
Charlie Garcia, Jennifer Pope Baker, Roger Harvey, thanks for joining us. We'll be right back after this.